Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 731. Bad Bills, Cheating Chiefs, Easy Eagles. Hello, Big Chillians, and welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going pretty well over here. How are you?
Yeah, things are going great. A lot of changes happening right now. I mean, it's a quick and rapidly changing environment here in the United States. I don't know if you've heard the latest, but I just saw this in the news today. Starbucks, big changes they're rolling out, Eddie. The condiment bar is back, and baristas are now handwriting customers' names once again on cups. America is back.
So I didn't know they'd stopped handwriting names, and I don't really know what the condiment bar is. I mean, I can figure it out based on the name, but didn't know it
like
ever
mustard
existed.
And ketchup if you want to put in your coffee. It's like milk and sugar.
And had that gone away during COVID, I presume?
Yeah. So during COVID, you'd have to tell them what you want in your coffee. But now, Eddie, because it's America, you can put in how much you want, when you want, where you want.
I don't know the last time I've had so few obviously I'm a non-coffee drinker, so Starbucks is not
You have little Starbucks to begin with.
I've maybe gone to Starbucks 5 times in my life.
Wow.
I would say a maximum. There have been a couple times in an airport or traveling where it's been the best option for getting some kind of drink or snack, but yeah, I have no real experience with it.
Yeah, well, you don't drink coffee. But at least you're not one of those people who, it's weird to me, there are people who are like coffee drinkers. There are people who are coffee drinkers who refuse to go to Starbucks, like super snobby. It's a little pretentious. Like sometimes you just need a coffee. Like you go to Starbucks, whatever. But then there are the people who are like, I just hate the way Starbucks coffee tastes. And then they go to like McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts and get coffee. It's like, I don't think you know what coffee tastes like then.
You know my opinion on pretty much all coffee drinkers, so I find most of them annoying. But yeah, look, I mean, it is what it is. Like with all things that are fast food and convenience, it has a time and a place. If you're the guy who insists...
Did you just call Starbucks fast food?
I said fast food and convenience. I said fast food and convenience. Starbucks is not a fast food place. It's a coffee shop. It's a convenient coffee shop, yeah. It's optimized for quick turnover.
I think you just slipped and called it fast food.
I never slip. Speaking of people who do slip, though, do we categorize this update on friend of the podcast, a popular person amongst listeners? I don't know if this is a Duca curse or this is if you take shots at the prince, you better not miss, because old Vasilis attacked me a week ago. Friday night, slips on his bike, fractures his arm.
Amazing. I love it. I don't love it. I feel slightly bad for him because obviously it's never fun to have a broken arm. But at the same time, I just love how I am sure. Well, I think my favorite part is no matter what the story is you tell us or tell me, I know that's not the real story. And I know you'll never know what the real story is. But in my head, it's a great story.
It's impossible from the descriptions he's given me of what happened. I have no idea. I can't visualize it. He denies being drunk. However, it was 5 a.m. He was definitely drunk.
Does he deny being drunk or does he not deny drinking?
He denies being drunk, but he always denies being drunk.
Yeah.
He also, the reason why he was drunk, not only because it happened at 5 a.m., but also because he then said, well, it didn't hurt when I did it. And then I went and slept. And when I woke up, I couldn't move my arm. It's like, do you know why that is? It's because you're drunk. So the injury that happened, if you'd been sober, it would have hurt in the moment and then may have hurt more the next day. But you definitely wouldn't have just got back on your bike and ridden home with a fractured arm.
Because he's tough. He's like Iron Man, Eddie.
Well, the other interesting thing, and I think we spoke about this when I was in Arizona last, but they put him in a sling. He's just in a sling for 3 weeks. I feel like you just don't get casts anymore. They've just done away with that.
Yeah. I haven't seen someone with a cast in a long time, that you mention it. Well, I guess that they have to did they do anything? I would assume you get cast when they have to like reset something. So did they reset something, or is it just like you fractured it, but it'll just heal on its own?
I think it's just it's a small fracture. Just don't move it. Don't use
So
it.
it's you're a little wimp. Just suck it up. Put some dirt on it.
Pretty
Is
much.
what the doctor told him.
Pretty
Okay.
much. But
your Instagram reels are filtered or just littered with different Iron Man and superhero videos. Why don't you be like them for once?
yeah, you claim to be a Spartan, and now you're the 301st who had to take a break because he stubbed his toe on the way to battle. But
you got the Instagram reel of a 13-year-old who just hit puberty. Why don't you watch them and man up?
But even him aside, like when I was a kid, you definitely routinely had younger kids in casts, like coming to school, everyone's signing it. I remember seeing them.
Casted twice.
I don't remember ever the last time I saw a kid walking around with a cast on.
Actually, a funny story. When I was a senior, so I had a fracture in my wrist that I continued to throw discus through, like for track and field. And it was broken and it hurt like hell, but I just kept going through because like the end of the season was my senior year. So then once that was over, I had to get surgery because I kept basically splitting the break so much that they had to put a screw in to kind of pull it back together. And the running joke around all our friends was that I was going to show up freshman year of college with a cast on, and I was going to be known as Cast Boy. And that was going to be like my nickname for my entire college career. Like, oh, look, it's Cast Boy. He's back.
Could have been a good one.
Yeah. I had a cast for a while. It sucked.
Hard to keep that one going into adult life.
The only really nice thing is that was when I went to Penn State. So obviously I had Division I like sports medicine. So as soon as my cast came off, I had like amazing physical therapy every day. It was awesome. It was like right there. It was perfect. So that was nice. But unfortunately, the Cast Boy didn't stick. I would be okay with Cast Boy. If I went back to Penn State now and some guy was like, "Hey, look, it's Cast Boy," I'd be happy with that.
I never really had a nickname, I have to admit.
You do this, like I could hold my arm up. That could be like
the Trump post ear bling blown off.
Copies Cast Boy of Penn State.
Yeah, I like that he's somehow the image of a fist being held up has overtaken lots of iconic imagery from throughout history, and now you make that gesture and I immediately think of Trump missing one ear. And talk about miracles of modern medicine. That ear regrowth is quite something.
So before we get on to the NFL, Eddie, because I know it might become quite a passionate discussion, I have I like to every once in a while hit up BuzzFeed and see if we can get some interesting talking points from a stupid BuzzFeed article. So I found one here that I wanted to share just because I thought it was really funny. One of the things. So the title of this one is "Women are sharing the, quote, innocent things men do that they find dead sexy. And I agree with every single one of them." Now, I won't go through all of them. Do you have a guess as to one that might be on here? Or something? Is there something that you do, something
Everything.
innocent, Eddie, that you do that women find dead sexy?
I don't know. I've definitely heard things discussed, but I don't want to take any guesses because I could be slightly exposing myself. I'd rather hear the list and then work. Yeah, I'm not falling for that trap.
Is there anything you think Vasilis thinks?
Vasilis for sure, but I think Vasilis sees, again, he gets this really toxic Instagram algorithm. So I'm not sure whether the things he would think are innocent are innocent. I'll put one that I know Vasilis would think, which is removing his belt. And I don't classify that as innocent.
Wait. Removing his belt where?
What do you mean where?
Like you mean like he's going on a date with the girl and they sit down at a restaurant and he like removes his belt?
It's his pickup line. I have seen him watch videos on multiple occasions, which is of someone taking their belt off with one hand.
I see what you're saying.
And that
he has perfected the move of the belt pull off, and he thinks women just like
irresistible.
Game over.
Yeah. And probably men too.
We've got to get him to do this at Ascot. I want to see how good he is at taking his belt off.
I'm sure you can encourage him. I don't think it'll
Do
be
you
hard.
think there's like an act with it? Do you think there's some swinging in the air, some hip shakes?
I think there's probably a little bit of a look.
Oh, a stare down, like a blue steel.
Yeah.
He's got his own version of blue steel.
Yeah.
Belt steel. Okay, so yeah, a lot of them are things you think, like remembering little details, always listening. When I ask him what he's thinking about, he stares into my face and says, "How beautiful you are and how much I care about you." When we walk together and cars get close to me, he automatically puts his arm on me to protect me, because they say forearms are super effective against fast-moving cars.
That's one of those things you sometimes see on the internet that, like, if you're a gentleman, you're supposed to walk on the roadside when you're walking with a girl.
That's one of them. That's one of them. For 50 years in this relationship, this guy has always walked on the outside of the sidewalk.
I've never heard that. I feel like this was created by the internet about 6 years ago, and now it's just being perpetuated.
Well, this woman says 50 years he's been doing it, before
if it's
cars
a real
even
person.
came out.
Do you think there's a 60-year-old on BuzzFeed? So this part I doubt, but I don't know.
Wait, that means they started dating when they were 10?
Okay, even older, 80-year-old on BuzzFeed.
It's true. It was
I get why it is. It's supposed to be a somewhat protective gesture, although, I mean, if a car is plowing into me, I'm not going to be the thing that protects you from it plowing into you. Yeah. There's not going to be.
But it's the thought, Eddie. It's the thought.
The thought will be, you get to look at me as I die right before you die. Yeah. That's the romantic gesture.
Speaking of driving,
it's the hand on the lap or whatever.
Logan's mama 35 NF. I don't know if the NF stands for no fuck, but different story. Driving stick shift. My husband still drives a 90s model stick shift truck, and he's always driven manual vehicles in the past, even before we met. Something about a muscular arm working the gears is just so hot for some reason.
Just move to Europe.
Wait, I'll finish. He's also a chronic reverse parker and is a pro at it, and I never get tired of seeing him do it. He does it like a knife slides through butter with zero effort.
I mean, look, good for them. If you're that easily excited by the other person in a relationship after a sustained period of time, that every time they reverse the car to park, that's an exciting moment for you. That sounds like a slightly deranged but wonderful relationship.
I apologize to Rad Nugget 401. It was after 51 years married. The husband still walks on the outside of the sidewalk, not 50. I cut their relationship short, and I apologize, Rad Nugget 401, because that sounds like the username of a 60-year-old woman. At least 60, if we go with the 10-year-old relationship.
Yeah. As I said, you hear it a lot, but I don't remember being a young man, when you get told, open doors, do this, do that. I never remember being told, and walk on the street side when you're walking with someone.
So this is an addition, Eddie. Super Danny says, in addition, so this is like adding on to the opening of the door. I'm weirdly excited that someone noticed putting their hand over corners so we don't get hurt. Every time I open the car door for my wife, my hand is on the corner of the door. Opening a cabinet, my hand is on the edge she's most likely to hit. It goes along with me always walking nearer to railing so she can't fall, being on a lower step on an escalator so I can catch her if needed.
Sounds like you're
that? Have you protected the corner?
It sounds like you're treating your wife or girlfriend as if they're a 3-year-old child. I can get in a certain instance, if someone's getting up from like underneath a table or like out from a ledge, that you might go, look out, if you start to see that they're going to hit it. But the idea that I would consistently, whenever they dropped your napkin, reaching over, no, watch the corner, or any railing that we were by, that I would be concerned that you were going to suddenly toss yourself. I mean, do you think that you're just making your partner suicidal on a consistent basis? You have to start removing possible death threats from them. It's a little strange.
You have to wife-proof your kitchen. So just a few more. Intentionally roll up and cuff their shirt sleeves. That's one of the only ones that is a genuine answer to this comment, because the other ones are just like, how is your husband or significant other just a nice person? This is like a legitimate non-sexual thing that people turn them on or whatever.
People do, and I can. But again, this is what bothers me, and it is with a lot of these lists. This is, I already find this person attractive, and ooh, they rolled their shirt sleeves up. I liked that. Like, that was kind of hot. It's not, hey, the 400-pound man in Target just rolled his shirt sleeves up. I wasn't particularly into him, but now he's irresistible.
Wow. I don't know what's the worst shot fired, at the obese individual or at Target.
Not a sponsor.
Target's a great store.
Hey, if they sponsor us, then they can start getting plugs.
Oh, this one, maybe it's you. I don't know who Clever Cookie 635 is, but he or she says, my very British husband brings me tea in bed every morning. It's a lovely way to start the day. But these are just acts of kindness. These aren't like turn-ons. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, my dad does that for my mother every morning. He goes downstairs first.
Look at that.
Makes tea, takes tea up. My mother drinks her tea in bed. I think that's a fairly...
you think your mom's really turned on by it?
No. I think it usually leads to complaints that the tea took too long. The tea isn't the right, like I think after 50 years of being together, whatever it's been for them, I think that's not I don't think it's even really looked on as an act of kindness anymore.
It's a requirement.
Just a commitment both of them have made, and neither one of them is going to stop till the other one dies.
I kind of like that. And now I'm invested. I've got to do it. And then this is the one when we go to either Cheltenham or Ascot and we're getting ready to go. This is what I want to do to you. There are times I'm getting... Oh, sorry. This is by Sonora Cuatro Ojos. There are times I'm getting dressed and buttoning up my shirt when my husband will walk over and finish the buttons himself while he stares into my eyes. It's sweet and a turn on. I can't wait to do this to you.
I mean, it sounds like a lot of these people are just dating psychopaths. But it's true, right, that women's shirts and everything buttons on the other way because they're supposed to be designed to be buttoned by someone else. So I guess the clothing is conducive to this type of gesture.
This sounds like something out of 50 Shades of Grey.
A little bit, yeah.
And I cannot wait to reenact it.
I also try and think of all of our friends, which one of them, if they told me, if it kind of goes, let's slip, we're out for drinks, and the wife or girlfriend said, whenever I'm putting on a buttoned up shirt, he comes over and he buttons my shirt up for me.
Okay, on 3, say what city they currently live in. 1, 2, London.
London. Sorry, Jake. He doesn't live in London anymore.
Ollie just got blasted.
Oh dear.
Oh, on that note, maybe we should switch it over to the NFL. A exciting weekend, I think, at least at the end. Unfortunately, the first game, it had potential. It really had potential to be a good game, but the Commanders just could not hold on to the ball in key situations, and then also could not stop anyone in the second half, basically. And it got a little out of hand towards the end. I think the score is a disservice to that game. Going into the third quarter, I had the Commanders with the spread, which was, I think, 6, and I also had them teased up to like 12. Going into the third quarter, I still thought that they had a chance not only to cover that, but to potentially still come back and win that game. And it just kind of got out of hand in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, no, I mean, you look, they had that key fumble on the kick return, and that was
killer.
That was when it really swung, not only because it moved them from being in the possibility of really putting themselves in a strong position within the game, had that drive ended up in points for them, but also just because I always think those special teams mistakes, they feel like bigger momentum swings, or, really take the air out of the balloon for a team where you're like,
there's no momentum in the NFL.
True. But if we're going to make these types of basic mistakes, or I think it's even easy enough to think of it as almost being bad luck. Gosh, really? This is the game when we've fumbled on a kick return, and also not only have we fumbled, but it's been recovered. I mean, we could point to plenty of examples in, over those games and over the last couple of weeks of teams fumbling and getting the ball back themselves. And you have that sort of lucky escape. I mean, the Bills did it a couple times against the Chiefs. Even the Chiefs had fumbles and got the ball back. So yeah, I think the 32-point score difference is a little bit deceptive.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
I was going to say that I was going to use your line. At the same time, though, I also slightly felt on that first drive, the very first drive the Commanders had, when they went down, they went for it on multiple fourth downs, but then had to settle for the field goal. In the back of my mind, I kind of said, uh-oh, I think this game's over.
Yeah. I do agree with you. I
cannot
don't
settle for field goals. When your defense is that bad, you can't settle for field goals.
Yeah, we went into it and we knew they weren't going to, like, they were not keeping the Eagles to under, say, 25 points. That just wasn't going to happen. And I don't really understand the logic of you went for it on 4th and 2 from the Eagles 28, but then you have 4th and 3 from the Eagles 16, and you decide, no, we got to take the 3 points. And I do agree with you. There was a certain, if you were the Eagles, you walked away from that saying, feels like the Commanders just gave us the best they could, and we still held them to only 3 points. And whereas that was a chance for the Commanders to at least get the 7-point lead and really have a statement. And with the Eagles, because of the approach they take within a game, if you can try and get a lead, you can at least put them in an uncomfortable situation in terms of how much are they going to run the ball, how much clock do they want to eat up.
Yeah.
And they didn't, not only did they not manage to do that, then you had the fumble on the ensuing possession. Suddenly it's 14-3. So you've gone from a situation where it was, potentially 7-0 to being down 2 scores in pretty much the blink of an eye. And yeah, they did well to then get back into it with a little bit of luck through also a long missed field goal attempt. I think the Eagles are flattered by the margin of victory, but at the same time, deserved victors. The game wasn't close, and it's not as if the Eagles are lucky that they won, but there's definitely, as with most NFL games, you could change a couple of plays, and the Commanders have a chance of winning that.
Yeah. I just think the Commanders starting off field goal, fumble, field goal is just not the way you want to start that game. And and then when you compare that to the first half the Eagles had of touchdown, missed field goal, touchdown, you kind of knew those touchdowns were coming. You have to put points up. You can't have three drives and have pretty good success on those drives and only come away with 6 points. Like, that was just a killer.
What do you prefer, how badly they started or how they ended? Fumble downs, interception downs.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah. That was bad. That last fumble, that was kind of the game. Once they fumbled that last one and then they scored that touchdown, the Eagles scored, it was kind of over. Like, that's obviously when it was over.
Yeah, no, I mean, as we said, there's a couple of moments that fumble, they're down 23-34 with the ball. You do think to yourself, okay, if you can get it to 30, or I guess you would probably go for 2 in that scenario. So be 31-34 with, a sizable chunk of the game left. You're right in there. And instead, you're all of a sudden down 18 points, and that was completely game over. But,
we did, I think, kind of lay out this game pretty well, too, in our preview, where we said, Barkley's going to have yards and he's going to be successful. But if you want a chance to win this game, I think you have to put the pressure on Hurts to throw the ball and see if Hurts can beat you. And I think they actually did that. I think Barkley only had like 18 carries. Obviously, he had the 160-yard plus touchdown run on the first play. But after that, he was kind of shut down a little bit. And they kind of put it on Hurts to beat them. And you know what I have to say? Kind of impressed by Hurts because he did a pretty good job of beating them. He had a good game. He had a lot of nice throws. Didn't take any brutal mistakes. He played really well. He played a lot better than I anticipated, and I think probably the Commanders anticipated, because that was definitely the game plan they went in with. Obviously, not the first play, but after that, they clearly said, we're going to make him throw and beat us. And he was consistently hitting throws downfield, on the sidelines, first downs, extending drives. He did a good job.
Yeah. So Saquon Barkley, 15 carries, 118 yards with that long of 60. So you really think about it. Yeah, they held him to, 14 carries for 58 yards for most of the game.
And held Hurts, too, running as well. Like, they loaded the box and stopped the run.
10 carries for 16 yards, a long of 9. So really just one effective run, basically. No, and okay, you can't overlook Saquon Barkley has 3 touchdowns and Jalen Hurts has 3 touchdowns. So there is some effective running there in key moments. But you're right. I think if that's the only part of the game, if you told them going into it, not the touchdown element, because they obviously don't want to see 6 touchdowns from those 2 players, but if you just told them the Barkley damage on the ground, Hurts damage on the ground, the Commanders probably would have felt pretty comfortable about their game plan sort of working. As we'd spoken about the week before, you can afford, and the Chiefs will probably have a similar mindset. You can let Barkley have 2 big runs. What you can't let him do is 6 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards every time he's getting the ball. And yeah, they did that pretty effectively. But no, I think the Eagles, after last week, I had said the Bills won, but I felt slightly worse about them. And the Eagles won, and I felt slightly worse about them. The Eagles won this game, and I come out of it feeling a lot better about them.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think Hurts, that was the best I've seen Hurts play in a long time. He spread the ball out well. Goddard had some catches. A.J. Brown had some nice catches. Devonta Smith had some good catches. Spread the ball out really well. Didn't have any bad, had no interceptions, and not that I can remember any really bad throws, versus Josh Allen, whose first 2 throws against the Chiefs both should have been picks. I think Hurts was definitely settled in, played well, and maybe he's less injured than he was the past few weeks, and that's helping. And I think another extra week of rest now going into the Super Bowl will definitely help that as well. So I definitely come out of this, yes, I agree, thinking the Eagles are better than I thought they were.
Yeah, and as the season goes on, you just see the dominance that they're able to have over pretty much everyone they face in both the offensive and defensive line, and just what a game changer that is. The pressure they can put on a quarterback, and then equally just the way they can manhandle defenses and, be able to move the ball when they really need it. And that's the thing. That's the type of football, it's so cliched, but converts to playoff scenarios. And again, in the Super Bowl, especially against a Chiefs team that isn't particularly explosive, being able to dominate both sides of the ball, which I would expect them to be able to do from a line perspective, is going to be interesting. Obviously, we'll get into our Super Bowl preview, at a later time, but I definitely, not that long as down on the Chiefs as I have been. I mean, I've been down on the Chiefs and the Eagles throughout this season, and now they're going to end up playing each other in the Super Bowl. So I guess maybe stop listening to me. But as down on the Chiefs as I have been throughout this year, I still would have, for the majority of this season, been, if you told me they're playing the Eagles in the Super Bowl, I would have put the Chiefs as confident favorites. And that mindset has definitely, unsurprisingly, given my position on the Chiefs, shifted slightly over the last week or two, but particularly based on what we saw from them, the Eagles on Sunday. But yeah, no, I thought they did everything they could do. The one asterisk is definitely the Commanders probably got further than they should have and were slightly exposed for not being that good. But still, it was a good performance.
And still, I will say, super impressed with Jayden Daniels. Even in a 30+ point loss, I think he's still the best player on the field. He, for a rookie, for a person who's that young, his first year in the league, didn't seem to be very rattled. It wasn't him that had the mistakes. He played, I think, well overall. He had 3 sacks, which when you look against who the Eagles have played and how well their defensive front is, and considering that towards the end of that game everything was a throw, that's really not that bad. 3 sacks in that game. He had the 1 interception. Okay, whatever, you can live with it. But I thought he had a pretty good game, and I think the Commanders definitely have something to be hopeful for in the future. I think last year Stroud was the best rookie QB, and I think Daniels had a much better rookie year than Stroud did. So I would expect next year for him to be at the top 5 QBs in the NFL.
I don't know. I'm cautious about projecting a sophomore quarterback to really cement their place, because we see this time and time again, not to the extent that Jayden Daniels has done it, but with a lot of quarterbacks where season 1 or season 2 goes really well, but really putting yourself into that kind of elite category is a bit more of a challenge. The thing that worries me slightly for the Commanders is what you have surrounding him. You think that on Sunday, their biggest weapon was Zach Ertz. So that's a 34, 35-year-old tight end. So that's a position that you almost immediately need to think about replacing. Even Austin Eckler, a 30-year-old running back who, was not super involved in the game because he wasn't particularly effective, but still was being used. They need to make some pretty aggressive moves in free agency and in the draft to bring in talent to put around Jayden Daniels. And they should be, and I guess this is our way too of transitioning onto the second game. The reason why that should be drilled into them even more is because whilst you might feel like you have forever with Jayden Daniels, you don't. And we can see with the Bills and Josh Allen having a quarterback performing exceptionally well. But if you don't put all the pieces in place around them, you will come up short consistently. And all of a sudden you'll be 5 years in, 6 years in, and then that window starts to feel a lot smaller. And this is where I think Tom Brady and to a certain extent Peyton Manning kind of ruined the way a lot of GMs build their teams, because they think, well, if we get the quarterback right, we can plug and play some people in around them and it will be okay. Like, who did Tom Brady win the Super Bowl with? A bunch of mediocre nobodies for the most part. Even Peyton Manning, well, he turned them into Pro Bowlers and all-stars. It wasn't because they were innately that talented. They are the exceptions that prove the rules. For the most part, you need at least one or two key weapons. Even Mahomes has had Kelsey for most of his career, had Tyreek Hill during the formative years of his career. You can't expect these quarterbacks in the first 5-6 years without legitimate weapons around them to be able to go toe-to-toe with good teams and consistently win.
No, I agree. And I mean, the other thing for Daniels, that we were talking about the window maybe closing, you always kind of have to worry with injuries. You still watch him and he's super skinny and super lanky and skinny, and injuries are always going to be a factor with someone who's running that much and scrambling that much. So, and you saw it this year. I mean, I think half the season he was hurt. You could tell his play was down. His stats were a little down. So that's something you kind of always have to, who knows how many years you have left. Josh Allen is 5'260". He's built to last. He's like a fucking Ford F.
Plus, the Commanders are in a tough division. Like, the Eagles aren't going anywhere. The Eagles are hanging around in some version of themselves here where they're going to be, at the very least, competent for the next few years, just because Hurts is a decent quarterback. Barkley will be around for a bit. They'll get another running back in eventually. With the system they have in place, they can just grind out games. One of the Cowboys or the Giants has to get better at some point.
Relax.
No, but I'm not saying Super Bowl, but I'm saying make it tough for you in your division of, oh crap, we lost a game to both the Cowboys and the Giants this year.
Super Bowl.
There's a scenario where you can be pretty decent and lose 4 games in your division. That's not and we've seen that with the NFC West. That's another thing that can make it more challenging to have sustained, when you really look at it, these teams that are able to put together the big dynasties or the consistently feature in AFC or NFC Championship games, they're teams who, for the most part, benefit from super weak divisions. The Chiefs division, okay, you've had moments of competency out of the Chargers, but the reality is, for the most part, that's been a paper-thin division for most of Mahomes' career. And the same even with the Bills and Josh Allen, and this is our way of me getting onto my first talking point from this game. A lot of people giving McDermott so much credit. Oh, he's turned the Bills around. They come up short, but against arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. It's like, let's not give him too much credit for turning the Bills around, because he happened to coincide with the Patriots falling off a cliff, the Dolphins being super incompetent, the Jets being super incompetent. There's a lot of teams that could have replaced the Bills over the last 6 or 7 years and won that division every year without being particularly good. And
yeah, but I mean, it's more than winning the division, though, because they are consistently getting to the AFC Championship game as well. Okay,
so in close games usually, so squeaking your way through a playoff game a year doesn't turn you into a fantastic coach. Like you get the lottery ticket for free from your bad division, and then most of the time you're able to outlast one team in the playoff. You can't. I don't think McDermott's a bad coach. I do think that was poorly coached on Sunday. I think he's the biggest reason the Bills didn't win that game. I walked away from the game 10 days ago, Bills-Ravens, where I felt like the best team lost. The Ravens should have won, and they'll kick themselves for not winning. And they will have then watched that game against the Chiefs on Sunday and thought, we could have absolutely bossed that game. Like, I don't think with the way the Chiefs are configured, they would have done well against a Ravens team that would have just run the ball, and just strung drives together. I don't see how they get stops. But I think the Bills walk away from that game feeling like they were probably the better team. They let that one slip, and they had plenty of opportunities either on when they came up short on the fourth down. That was the chance to go 8 points ahead, which would have really felt like a big lead at that stage in the game. Even 4 points ahead, if they'd ended up with a field goal, would have still put themselves in a nice spot. Then you get the ball back with 3 minutes left. Your timeout's pretty much in place. In the moment, it felt like they didn't have a lot of time almost, but they had all the time in the world.
Too much time.
Yeah, and that's what Mahomes has made his name on, is putting drives together in those situations. And it's a shame for Josh Allen and the Bills that they weren't able to do the same.
Yeah, I think they can walk away from that game. I don't know if I would necessarily say the better team, but they definitely could have. I think they walk away from that game saying, we lost that game. I think at the end of the day, when you have the ball in your hands with the game on the line and you can win it with your drive, then you can rightfully say, we should have won that game. We had that game. We had the ball in our hands. We had so much time left. We could have put together that second half. They were putting together very nice, long, consistent, run-heavy drives, and they still had the opportunity to do that with 3 minutes left with the ball for the win, and they didn't come through. And I think they'll be kicking themselves thinking, why didn't we just put together another drive like we were doing in that second half when we were controlling the line of scrimmage, pushing them away, and just kind of putting the ball down their throats?
They almost felt panicked. I mean, you look back, they're first and 10 from their own 42 with 2 minutes and 25 seconds left. So, okay, let's not go with the aggressive coach who gets into field goal range at the opponent's 40 and feels comfortable. But they needed 25 yards to feel pretty good about themselves attempting a game-time field goal. So time was no longer a factor when you throw in the ability to get out of bounds and the couple of timeouts that they had in their pockets. You're not wrong. They almost had too much time. And maybe if they'd had a minute and 25 and they'd just gone full hurry up, and they decided not to really run the ball in that scenario. They didn't have Cook on the field for most of that drive,
which was crazy.
And the same left him, didn't have, I think they rushed the fourth and inches, as it really was, that had led to the turnover on downs. I don't really know why they hurried up to the line to do that. That was also weird to me. Like, take your time, come up with a smart play. And what bothers me about it is they came up with the best play, the unstoppable play to use in that scenario for their team on the fourth down Cook touchdown, which is just get Allen to roll out to the right, and either he's going to pick it up or he can pitch it to the running back and he's going to pick up a yard. There's no way the Chiefs can stop that. And yet, in the key moment, they went, let's just do what the Eagles do, even though we're not quite as good at that.
Well, and I think this is a tip of the cap to the Chiefs and their preparation, which I think their coaching staff is so good at preparing for these types of games. They clearly identified that Josh Allen likes on those sneaks to kind of pull a little to the left and dig into the left. He did it, I think, 4 times in that game, and every time they stuffed him. They knew exactly what he was going to do. And this is where I think you can give McDermott shit and their coaching staff. They didn't fucking change it. You clearly knew the Chiefs were basically every time it was like, hey, if it's a sneak, he's going to pull and sneak to off the left guard and try and push through that left guard, just overload that area. Well, react to that. Do something different. And the time they did something different, when instead they did the QB option to the right, it worked. Don't keep doing the same thing if it doesn't work. You have to be ahead of the game. You can't be behind the game.
Well, and also what we saw from the Chiefs in the reverse, when they realized that they could just have Mahomes roll out to the right and the Bills were not making adjustments to stop that, they just did it over and over again. There was no pride in, let's be smart, let's do something where another coach is going to be like, whoa, what a play call. It was just, we'll spam them with the play that works until they stop it, and then we'll come up with something else. And
they did it they did it the first time, and then the second, I can't remember what the exact play was, but it was another crucial either third or fourth down. And Romo even says, he's basically like, hey, Jim, I bet you they're going to go to that same rollout play that worked the last time. And I think anyone who's listening probably was like, yeah, duh, of course they are. It worked so well last time. Everyone but the Bills.
Yeah. And I think if you want to go back to the lack of preparation, you don't have to be a footballing genius. What does Steve Spagnuolo do on big fourth downs? He just sends the house. We see it every time. And yet, or in 4th and 5, you don't put extra, don't decide to use a running back to give extra protection for Josh Allen. You don't come with a play like, we're going to hit a man in the flat. We only need 5 yards. We're just going to get the ball out quickly and avoid the pressure. No, you bring a man like in motion and then have him spin around pointlessly to the left-hand side while Josh Allen runs to the right for his life. And yeah, nearly made an amazing play throwing the ball up. And Kincaid probably should have caught it. But you shouldn't have left yourself in a situation where you were like a complete breakdown on a play when basically all the Chiefs did was all they ever do in big down defensive situations.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you watch that play, the running back you're talking about, he actually has that throw and doesn't take it. I saw it was Orlovsky or someone had like a breakdown video of it. And basically they said in that situation, even though it's 4th and 6, when you see what was like in front of you, you have to take that check down and hope that he can just outrun the linebacker who's supposed to be covering him, which it looks like he will. Like when you look at the video, when they stop it, it's like right now, he should have thrown it right away. And you stop it. If it's a good throw, he gets that first down, no problem to that running back. And I understand like that's not, when you're a quarterback on 4th and 5, the last thing you want to do is dump it off short and hope that someone can get it. But sometimes you just have to trust the read and trust the right play. And, I give the Chiefs credit. They make it really difficult to do that because they have those blitzes and those unique plays at the end of games that kind of throw you off your game a little.
Yeah, and the damage on that possession was done on 1st and 2nd down with the incomplete pass and then a completion for no yardage gain, and all of a sudden finding yourself in 3rd and 10 and kind of amping up the pressure in a scenario when you really shouldn't have had it. And so the criticism again on their lack of going back to the run game and going back to what they do well. Why don't you on 1st and 10 try and run the ball, turn it into 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, and then put yourself in a much more comfortable situation on your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th down call. And, instead you dug a hole for yourselves that you didn't really need to be in. And, nearly pulled it off, just came up short. Obviously, the other big talking points from the game, it's the Bills turning the ball over on downs on that when they're up 22-21, and whether or not Josh Allen got the ball on the sneak. I think he did, but I actually find the bigger issue to be on the spotting of the ball on the 3rd down, because I felt like he's so clearly in a scenario where you just see them go, yep, 1st down, like we're not going 4th and inches on this one. That's the one I take greater issue with.
And I think you are absolutely correct with them rushing it really screwed them there, because if you watch the play, this is the 3rd down we're talking about. Kincaid catches it and extends out and looks like he gets it, but he gets marked short. The angle of the person who spots the ball, he can't see that his knee isn't down because his knee is actually like resting on the Chiefs player, but it's like hidden from him because the Chiefs player is in front of it. So he can't see it. So you can tell he thinks the knee is down when it's down and spots it where that ball is. In the challenge, I actually did not think they were going to overturn that 4th down call when you start looking at the replays. But when you saw that 3rd down in that challenge, I think they 100% overturn it and give him the first down, because you can clearly see his knee is not down and the ball is extended over that line. I think if they had stopped and not rushed and done that stupid QB sneak, they get that first down and overturn.
I agree with you. And I think in the very least, they get a slightly more favorable spot. So you put yourself in okay, I can fall forward for the first down at this stage. Like this is a can't miss 4th and inches now that is just, completely manageable. Yeah, I don't know why they hurried up in that situation. I don't know what it is you're hoping to expose from the Chiefs defense, given the fact that all of these defenses are so accustomed to the tush push. That scenario, it happens with such frequency now in the NFL that it's not as if you're putting them in a, oh no, we need to change our personnel because we need to get the big bodies on for the 4th down. They have to deal with these 3-4 times a game in a lot of situations. So I feel like you hurt yourself more as the offense really hurrying it up, unless, of course, you're the Eagles, where it's just a gimme. Again, we had to give the Eagles more credit because the efficiency that we see from them in those scenarios, everyone always says anyone could do it. Well, we see now in big time moments, turns out not everyone can do it, even with a quarterback who kind of should be built for that. And I thought it was a shame. I think it's a shame actually for the Chiefs that they played a pretty good game and that it gets spoiled a little bit by the consistent talk of the officials.
The refs bailed them out again.
Yeah. And it's true. It's also hurt by the fact that on the spot of you have the two officials run in at completely different distances, and the one on the far side should have the better view of it because he was seeing Josh Allen with the ball. Now, okay, he's being blocked by some big players, so I can get why he's not going to be too insistent. But normally, they sort of meet in the middle when they then spot the ball. And this time he just went, oh, no, you think it's like 4 inches back? We'll just go with you.
Yeah.
That was also a little strange.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you have to kind of feel bad for the Chiefs a little bit because this is a game where I don't actually think, regardless of that play, it's tough to say that the refs are giving the advantage because even things like that, it's going to replay. It's literally out of the refs' hands at that point. It's insane to think that the refs are giving them all these calls. No, it actually went to a booth review. Now there are more people involved in this, and they still don't agree.
It is, but we know how important the spot on the field is. Because ultimately what that came down to was, and I actually think realistically the video evidence kind of shows that he did get it. The unfortunate thing is it's Jones, I think, who kind of blocks you from being able to see exactly where the ball is. But realistically, unless in the moment of that tackle, he has shifted the ball from clearly being here to suddenly being here.
Yeah.
You know really where the ball is. That's where the importance, and the NFL, look, this is such a solvable problem with either a chip in the ball or overhead cameras or, some type of AI mapping that you can do combining multiple camera angles. I mean, look, I guess for the NFL, the business is good to have people disputing it and debating it, and controversy is better than apathy. Yeah.
And then the other major conspiracy theory call was the interception / catch / incomplete pass. That one, I will argue, actually favored the Bills because up to that point, the Chiefs were just driving the ball down the Bills' throat. And there was about 2 minutes left, or a little under 2 minutes left, when they make that catch. So they go from what would have been the 20-yard line because there was a hold. So going from the 20-yard line to the 3-yard line. They then score, and the Bills get the ball back with a minute 50 left. If the Chiefs are at the 20-yard line, knowing how good the Chiefs are, they run out that clock, and the Bills don't even get another possession and don't score that touchdown. So I think that all cancels out to me. You could almost say the Bills benefited from that because they did get the ball back and score a touchdown and maybe got some momentum going into the half. But that was just a weird call. And the thing that bothers me about this one is everyone keeps saying, oh, the ball hit the ground. It's an incomplete pass. But we've been told now for 4 years, the ball can hit the ground. It's whether it hits the ground and moves that it then becomes an incomplete pass. So the whole of it's hit the ground. Look, it clearly hits the ground. Yes, we know it hit the ground, but does it hit the ground and then move? And I don't know. It looks like kind of, but then his hand also moves. So is it his hand moving or I don't know. But at the end of the day, I don't think it mattered at all. If anything, I think it helped the Bills.
So, okay, I think you're a bit right that obviously because of the penalty on the play anyway. So yes, it was 3rd down, but they were going to have a 1st down no matter what. So it did just move the Chiefs that bit closer and meant that they scored faster. And so you're right. It gave the Bills the time they needed to go down and score. But you don't get bailed out for bad officiating just because the other team goes and does something good. You're it can't be the World Cup final. Hey, that definitely wasn't a penalty, but it doesn't matter because the other team scored right after. So back to square one, oh, well, we will try not to make that mistake bad next time. The ball doesn't really move, but I don't even know who's holding the ball at the time of the ball. I definitely don't think it should have been a Chiefs. It's either an interception to me or an incomplete pass. I don't know how it ends up with the Chiefs, that being a catch. I can't watch that from any angle, have anyone tell me that's a catch and believe them. That should be it's just clearly not a catch. And so, again, you're right. It kind of didn't matter. And then the same even with the spotting of the downs. The Bills still had plenty of opportunities in the game to go on and win it. So you can only blame yourselves because the ball was in your hand at crucial moments and you came up short. But it still doesn't look great that time and time again, these weird calls go in favor of the Chiefs. And that's the bit that is a little bit of a tough pill to swallow from that perspective. And I will say it, I love this talking point. This Chiefs team holds almost every play. And if they do not give up a holding penalty against an Eagles team that dominates the line of scrimmage and gets pressure on quarterbacks, then I might have to give up watching the NFL. I'm not an Eagles fan. As well documented, if anything, on the podcast, I kind of dislike the Eagles and I dislike Sirianni and not a huge Jalen Hurts fan. He's kind of indifferent to me. But it's undeniable the type of pressure they put other teams under and the pressure they put a quarterback under. And if this Chiefs team does not get called in another Super Bowl for a holding penalty, offensive holding, then I don't know what to do.
Actually, there wasn't a holding penalty in the entire game.
Of course not. The Chiefs are involved. There also was a blatant, face mask that involved a Bills player having his head turned around for about 4 strides. And look, I don't want it. I think the game was good enough that you don't want to get. And what I also dislike is people can then point to, there was this time that the Bills got the right call. It's like, yeah, mistakes will be made on both sides, but the Chiefs consistently get weird calls in their favor at big moments, I think. And they're a good team. I've said it before. Good teams, I think you earn the right to have that to a certain degree. They're just unlikable.
Speaking of what you said before, we talk about lately. I've been very ranty lately. A lot of rants going on. Eddie was out at the bar, obviously, late night watching the Chiefs-Bills game and proceeded to text, "God, I hate them. Seriously. What's the penalty? You can tell me conspiracy theories are shit, but what the fuck is that penalty? Honestly, this is bullshit. Just give them the Super Bowl. Turns out, if you turn 1st and 10 to 1st and 5, quarterbacks are pretty good." Side note, they did not have one penalty to make it 1st and 5. I actually went and checked.
It's not the point.
Were drinks involved in this late night?
I actually think I'll stand by, that's a pretty coherent 4 a.m. rant after drinking for 12 hours.
We're only halfway. Also, forget holds on 2nd and 3rd down, then you're even better. Honestly, watching this, my dad will like this one. I can pick up 3 yards on every carry. Then there was a little break. Then the game clearly ended. I hate them. They aren't good.
Yeah, I stand by all of those messages. Fairly coherent.
I chose not to respond because I was like, I think this might pile up. It might be worth just letting it pile.
No, I stand by most of those. And here's the thing is, too, they weirdly lack. Do you know what? When the Patriots were dominant, and they're becoming super reminiscent now of the Patriots dynasty, and, you have to respect how good they are and how Andy Reid and Mahomes, we've discussed it, not the most impressive set of weapons around Mahomes, have managed to consistently turn out similar results. So, look, I'm not going to... They're obviously good. I'm not going to stand by that comment. I don't think they are as great as the results would make it seem. They should have been beaten on the path to some of these Super Bowls or in some of these Super Bowls in a way that I did not feel about the Patriots. I felt like with the Patriots that they should have come away from that period basically winning more Super Bowls, and I do not feel that way about the Chiefs. The Patriots, there was a certain degree, okay, Deflategate and Spygate aside, and I know you were never a big Belichick fan. I kind of respected the grumpy curmudgeon element to him in terms of how he dealt with the press. But there was a certain classiness about the Patriots during their dynasty that was undeniable even in their most dominant moments.
What?
I
Oh
think
man,
so.
this is revisionist history.
It's
They
not
were
for
the
me.
biggest bunch of scumbags ever. Bill Belichick was an asshole his entire career.
I don't think in terms of how he spoke about other teams. I don't, for example, and look, you can probably dig through quotes and find, you have Xavier Worthy. You're a fucking nobody for now. Cool it. It's nice what you did. But winning that game and then making the statement, that'll teach them for not drafting me. Have a bit of class in the moment and enjoy your win and focus on your success and what a nice rookie season you've had. The fact that you've had a touchdown in the AFC Championship game, that you're going to the Super Bowl, but it's so revealing about them in terms of a culture within their team. And I think it's exemplified by the arrogance of both Mahomes and Kelsey when they speak publicly, that just focus on yourselves a bit. Don't do the stupid wrestling promo bit that you've got to do and sing a dumb song that's awful every time you win an AFC Championship game. Don't become caricatures of yourself. Just be.
Don't have fun. Just win, shut the fuck up, and go home.
Here's the thing is, I don't think they are having fun. I think they're doing what they think having fun looks like. That's what bothers me. I don't think Kelsey is having fun singing his stupid song. I just think he saw his brother get dressed up in his genie outfit after the Eagles won and basically transform his career by doing his little wrestling promo bit when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and realized, I need to match my brother and I need to come up with my little iconic moment, which is going to be singing a song awkwardly in a very cringy method when we win big games. And I did it once, so now it better be my thing. I'm going to do it again. I mean, it's just...
And we're seeing the start of a fucking villain origin story here.
For who?
For you.
Me. Look, if I somehow end up being a villain in the universe of the Kelseys, then that's fine.
When we find out that Chiefs mascot that like moves his stomach around gets murdered, you're suspect number one.
But that's the bit. And I like Andy Reid a lot. I actually think he's extremely classy in terms of how he speaks about opponents, but it's just throughout the rest of the team, it's just, I don't know. I felt differently about the Patriots. And yes, you're going to point, like I'm sure there's, and it's true. Look, Deflategate, Spygate, there are lots of controversies that marred their dynasties, but I don't know. I just felt a little bit different.
So you talked about Allen's window closing, or potentially the Bills and Allen's window closing. Just two stats here I found. So the Bills in 6 years have 78 wins with no Super Bowl. That's the most all time for wins in 6 seasons without a Super Bowl. And in the playoffs, teams that have 3 or more touchdowns and no turnovers are 140-19. Allen is 0 for 3.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've wasted, and I have to be equally critical of Allen in the same way that I would say, for example, critical of Burrow at moments this season. That was a really nice performance from Josh Allen, but you came up short on 2 really big drives in moments when you could have, if they'd gone up 8 points on that one, on the drive where they turned the ball over on downs, it's not game over, because obviously I would back the Chiefs to go down, score the touchdown that they did anyway, go for 2, get it, tied game. But, then you find yourself in a tied game with the ball with not that long left and, in a position to really, again, take control. Or when you get the ball back with, 2 minutes and 42 seconds left and I think 2 timeouts, and you just need a field goal to at least extend the game. To come up short on either of those drives, it overshadows everything else you did. And I'll have one other little rant about sort of McDermott. And we discussed this last week. They went for 2.
The 9/11 rant?
No.
You're going to please my dad here with the going for 2 too early.
What are you doing? You don't know how the game plays out. Take the points. Take every point that's just there to be taken, because you don't know. Yes, in the fourth quarter, you might start doing the math and realizing, like, for example, had the Bills gone up by 8, if they'd been up 29-21, then obviously the Chiefs on the next touchdown should go for 2, try and tie the game, because you don't know how many times you're getting the ball back. But to go for 2 in the second quarter, And then you really look at how it played out. Did it end up mattering? Kind of, because, for example, it means they would have been down by 2 points with the ball with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, needing a field goal to win the game. And that's a completely different dynamic to suddenly think 5 yards and we're in a spot to win this, not just force overtime. We don't even need to be thinking about touchdown. We can just run the ball, drain the clock. And so stop doing it, coaches. Like, I don't care if you're down 24-0 in the second quarter, 7 points. Just take the 7, because the 6 fucks you more than the 8 helps you.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I don't like the fact that this gets lumped in with analytics, because this is not analytics. The analytics would tell you not to take the 2. The analytics would tell you to kick the extra point there. So the fact when people are like, see, analytics are terrible. It's like, no, you're just not following the analytics. The analytics tell you to exactly what Eddie said. Take the extra point because the 6 fucks you more than the 8 helps you in that situation. It's not until you get into the fourth quarter, then the analytics would definitely tell you to go for it, obviously. Just do the smart thing, not the impulse.
Well, I mean, yeah, and they went for 2 twice, right? I actually almost forgot that.
Yeah, they missed them both.
And they missed them both. And the analytics says, well, it makes sense to go for 2 because if you go for 2 twice, it's a 50% conversion rate on average. So it's a wash, which the analytics then kind of, or I mean, it's like a 51%. It almost doesn't make sense to me, the logic behind it. But again, if they could have put themselves in, and look, it's too easy to just add 1 point or 2 points onto their score because it potentially changes what the Chiefs do. How do the Chiefs handle that? The Chiefs and get bailed out almost in that game for completely messing up the 1st and goal scenario they had. There could have been a takeaway from this game if the Bills drive down and win with a touchdown, like a walk-off touchdown of, wait, the Chiefs had 1st and goal and ended up attempting a 35-yard field goal. Like how un-Chiefs-like of them in the efficiency that we typically admire them for. And also, if you're the Bills defense, what a wonderful stand you came up with in that scenario that then also doesn't matter because you immediately found yourselves back on the field 6 plays later. For the Eagles, please, I want you to beat the Chiefs going into this Super Bowl. I don't want to see you going for 2 unless there's under 5 minutes left on the clock. And you might be the best team at going for 2 that there is.
I was going to say, but maybe they should.
Or go for 2 every time. I want one of the other. If you're going to be that team, if you're going to already in the second quarter think about how you want to level scores up and stuff, then why aren't you taking the extra point to go 8-0? If you're that confident in your ability to convert 2-pointers, you're going to score multiple times if you're the Bills. So why aren't you going for 2 on your every touchdown? Like, why when it was 10 when you went up 10-7, why didn't you go up 11-7? Why is it only a scenario you're using to either put yourself back within 3 or 7 or 8, or to put yourself up by 3, 7 or 8? Didn't.
What's interesting on that idea is that after you score a touchdown, if you go for 2, the ball gets put at the 2-yard line. Everyone decides just kick the extra point. You get the penalty and the ball moves up to the 1-yard line, and then it's automatically, let's go for 2. So if that's 100% of the time you go for 2 at the 1-yard line, it has to be over, you think 50% of the time you can get it from the 2-yard line. So if you think over 50% of the time you can get it, then you should always just go for it. Because if it's 100% at 1, that means it has to be, your confidence level has to be like 65, 70, even 75%. You're going to get it from the 2. If that's the case, if you think 3 times out of 4 you're getting it, then do it, because you're getting an extra point that way.
Yeah, look, and this sounds so stupid because to use the world of video games, but if I'm playing a game of NCAA football and you play against those assholes who go for 2 every time they score.
Well, that's college, Eddie.
It does annoy me, though. It does put you under a little bit more pressure, because it is kind of annoying to then you score, do I also go for 2 now? At least if you were doing that, you'd give the opponent something to think about of, well, are we going to be down 16-14 in 2 minutes if we just keep, and then eventually we're going to be down 3 points, even though we've scored the same number of times as them? I would still think that's like Dan Campbell level of a psychotic move, but I would at least, again, with Dan Campbell, he's at least consistent in that psychotic approach.
He's
And
a consistent psycho.
whereas this haphazard, let's go for two now, no, we'll just take the extra point, that bit, just leave it out.
Yeah. So I guess real quick, I want to go back to the Eagles Commanders. I think this is a good way with their tush push or brotherly shove or whatever. There was that point in the game where the Commanders decided we're just going to try and jump the snap count and make a play. Everyone was reacting as if, what are the Commanders doing? Like, this is so stupid. I took it as a way to say, look, this is how stupid this play is that the NFL is allowing to continue happening, that you have players that are literally just saying, fuck it, I'm going to jump over the line whenever I want. Maybe it's time we fucking end the ability to do this play. It's making a mockery of the NFL that a ref has to come in and say, hey, wait. You do this again, we're just going to give him a touchdown. Don't do it. Like, maybe the NFL should say, yeah, this isn't working out. Let's put an end to this dumb fucking tush push.
I mean, your logic is hurt by the fact that we then watched a team get stuffed on a 4th and 1 at a key moment in the game. So again, we have to have more. The fact that the Eagles have come up with an unstoppable version, basically, of this play, it's not like every other team can do it. So I kind of get what you're saying, but you have to admire the efficiency, even if it's not much fun to watch. I didn't realize, I mean, in rugby, you get penalty tries. I didn't really realize you could award a penalty touchdown at a certain point. But it does make sense because otherwise there's no real penalty that can be inflicted for either a false start or you're just going half the distance to the goal. It doesn't really change the dynamics. I actually think the penalty touchdown isn't, in the end, a big enough penalty. Because if you know you're going to give the penalty up anyway, you may as well try and time the jump just right, try and change the play. I think if you're going to do that, the only fair penalty is not only to give the 6 point, not only the 6 points. I think you have to say this is 8 points. If you keep doing this, it's an automatic 8. Because in the same way that rugby, like a penalty try, automatically puts you in front of the posts, no matter where the penalty try has been awarded from, that's the kind of benefit of it. On top of that is, you don't have the difficult conversion. You've given away a penalty try in the corner, but now it's guaranteed 7 points. I think it would be fair to say, look, if you give up in the red zone, if you give up 3 consecutive defensive penalties, it's 8 points to the other team and we can move on.
Speaking of that, I did see a good, I think it was a post on Instagram or something like that, kind of debating if they award that, how is that awarded? Like, does a certain player get it? Because obviously for bets and maybe not for fantasy for this, obviously because it's the playoffs, but in general for fantasy football or for someone who has a prop bet or a player bet or defense bet or anything like that, how does that get awarded? Is it awarded to a player? Is it awarded to a team? How does it work? That could have some major implications.
For betting, I think it's probably easy, which is it's either usually most of the categories eventually have an other. If you have first down touch score. So there's
great one.
It's the 200 to 1 other or whatever it is that you see, because they obviously don't put the full 53-man option as first potential touchdown scorer. So you'd get I think you get other.
I wonder if they would put that in other.
Or it's like an own goal in football where the own goal doesn't count towards first goal scorer. So you're just kind of like delaying. Now, don't get me wrong, it would still be frustrating if that had been the only time Hurts was going to score a touchdown and you get denied the obvious Hurts touchdown. But, I mean, you can't just get handed a freebie because it didn't happen.
Yeah, the first touchdown score is a big one too. I wonder if they own goal it and don't even count it, and then the first touchdown score would then be the next person to score a touchdown.
I think that's probably what happens.
But if you count it as other, then it wouldn't, because other is an option for first touchdown score.
Yeah, I think it's one of those two. Oof. Either it's the 200 to 1 other payout that like 3 random people have bet on, or it's just a roll it on to the next one.
Then the last thing, I guess, going into the Super Bowl, we'll obviously talk about this a lot more.
Can I have the one little other officiating debate that came out of that game, which was for the Chiefs, the blended clock, when the play clock was going to run out at 2:01 and the 2-minute warning was at 2 minutes. I understand what they're saying, that they don't call delay of game as soon as it hits 0. It was inconsequential anyway in terms of to the game. But I will say, I don't think I've ever seen that before in all of the
Yeah.
dozens of football games between college and the NFL I watch every single weekend. I don't think I've ever heard this blended clock discussion come up of, well, the play clock's going to expire at 2:01, but they'll just let them go to the 2-minute warning because technically you have to see a clear overlap, like the extension beyond
because the
the play
numbers
clock.
overlap slightly.
Yeah. And
I'm sure it's probably happened at the end of games. We probably just haven't realized because the score was too far off and you kind of say, oh, game's over.
But no, I've never seen it in not that it mattered, but a moment that kind of mattered where the stopping the clock and making the Chiefs run one extra play could have potentially sort of been significant.
Also, with the game clock, I thought about this a few weeks ago, and I don't think we actually mentioned it because there was another game. What game was that? Maybe it was the Lions game a few weeks ago, one of the playoff games, but they kept almost getting delay of games, but not calling. Oh, I think it was the Ravens, actually. They almost kept getting delay games, but then not calling it. At what point can we just stop with this? Well, the rule is like the ref has to see the clock hit 0 and then has to turn his face and head to the player and see if the ball is snapped. Just have a fucking, like a shot clock. How hard is this? How hard of a fucking concept is that?
I don't know. I don't get it because it's so subjective and it gets the leeway of maybe a 1-second window. It's sometimes like a 3-second window and you see it at key moments. And why would you open yourself up to that level of inconsistency? And I agree with you. Have a shot clock, have a bright light that goes off, have something where have one official who's just staring at one, have a video referee who's watching a synced video who just presses a button and sets the alarm off of delay of game. Sorry, it doesn't matter that you snapped it a millisecond after the alarm. It doesn't matter anymore.
In a sport where you're trying to get rid of subjectivity as much as you can, why is such a simple fix like that just not done? When they kept debating it, it was blowing my mind. It's like basketball has had the shot clock buzzer for decades. How does the NFL not have one? And if, like, you're right, even if at the very least you have just one extra ref on the field whose only job is to blow the whistle as soon as it hits 0, if you don't want to have like an actual automated noise, then just do that. But don't have the rule be a ref will watch it hit 0 and then like slowly turn his head or fastly turn his head to see if the ball has been snapped yet.
No, it makes no sense. It really doesn't. And it's feels like such an easy fix. And the only argument for not doing it is because that's the way we've always done it. Or for that one argument they love to do, which is, well, this way we can have the same approach to officiating in a Pee-wee football game as you'd have in the Super Bowl. It's like, okay, yeah, but we don't have video reviews. We don't have, there's not New York coming in to make a quick call on your local middle school football game. So it's not as if you're applying the same standard of officiating across all levels. And actually, again, it would not be very hard, even in a high school football game, to have a basketball style shot clock. Yes, I guess you'd say it's more open to, at some point, manipulation. If people aren't manipulating 24-second shot clocks in other sports, I feel like you could work it out in football.
So I guess that wraps up the conference championship games. We obviously have some time before we need to talk about the Super Bowl. There's the 1-week break, and then you have the famous media day. We can discuss all the wacky things said during media day. Anything else you want to cover sports related?
So, Premier League, Chelsea had a season continued to go from bad to worse, took an early lead against Manchester City. Manchester City actually finally showed a little fight and a little bit of quality to come through and win that match. But
at no point was I nervous. I took City double. At no point was I nervous, but at no point was I more confident than when you texted, City double might have been trouble.
Well, I was doing it early enough that it was not really, if anything, it was, a reverse jinx that may have helped you. But look, the title race is all but over. And you had Arsenal with a very controversial red card for a denial of a clear goal scoring opportunity 70 yards away from goal, which was a little bit of a shocking decision, I have to say. Which has subsequently now been overturned, so it will not stand. And I guess the Premier League can be happy that in the end, Wolves also had a player sent off, and Arsenal found a relatively late winner on that one. Yeah, I think not the most interesting weekend from sport aside from that. Yannick Sinner won the Australian Open in convincing fashion against Zverev.
Actually, I guess maybe the most exciting part would be Madison Keys upsetting and winning the women's Australian Open.
Yeah. And in a way, I would not have thought she would have won it. She won the first set, and I thought that she then had a good chance of just... Sabalenka has off days sometimes, and it felt like, well, she's not playing very well.
Don't we all, Eddie? Don't we all?
This could just be Keys' chance to just dominate this and win it in 2 sets. But when Sabalenka then really took control of the second set, you felt like it was inevitable that she would then find a way in the third set. And she had some opportunities and didn't take them. And Keys found her way. I mean, ultimately, the women's game is a lot more interesting than the men's game at the moment because there's a lot more uncertainty on the women's side of things in terms of whether it's Sabalenka kind of the dominant force, Swiatek dominant on clay. Both can be beaten at different moments, and there are decent challengers. The men's game just feels like a foregone conclusion that it's going to be some combination of Sinner, Alcaraz, or Djokovic. Zverev, kind of a no-show, got heckled for being an abuser. He took that with the charm that he always has done. Just his PR team prepares him so well for those type of tough moments. But yeah.
Yeah, I like Sabalenka because she seems very sincere. Like there's not a lot of filter there. And I kind of like that. It's sometimes it can be much. And I think you just 30 minutes ago said sometimes you have to be a professional and shut up and show respect. But I also kind of like when someone who has been dominant in what they're doing has off days and they lose a major championship and then they slam their fucking racket and break it into a million pieces and then get interviewed and say that their coaching team sucks and they're the reason they lost, even like in a joking fashion, but like the attitude she has is definitely the attitude that I think a normal person who had like a big moment and fucked it up would have. And it's kind of nice to see that these people who we think are sometimes robots can be normal people and kind of be pissy and have an attitude and be upset when they lose.
I don't disagree with you. There are a lot of brats in tennis, and there's a lot of example of bad sportsmanship throughout tennis. And I don't love people smashing rackets, but I didn't mind her losing, smashing the racket. She then immediately recomposed herself and went to the net and congratulated Keys and showed a bit of class in that moment, and then went to her bench and cried and covered her head in a towel and, was clearly upset. But she at least had the composure to go to the net, let the other person not steal the complete moment from the person who's won. And that was the important thing to me compared to what we sometimes see from other players. So she at least racket smash, get to the net, now go cry on the bench. And that's okay. But yeah, other than that, sporting wise, no, not too much. Six Nations kicks off this weekend, so probably have a little bit of rugby talk in the coming weeks.
Speaking of, I sent you, there's a new Netflix documentary on Six Nations. Will you be watching that Netflix documentary?
I don't think so. I think I'm out sport documentary at the moment. Completely. And I also know that there's been already some criticism of the rugby documentary in that a lot of these sports documentaries thrive from the sort of full access, always being there in uncomfortable moments. And supposedly there were times when they were turned away from being allowed into locker rooms or being allowed in for certain conversations, which I can see both sides of the coin there. I think if I'm a coach, I know that you're making money and this is good for the exposure of the sport, but I don't know if I want every conversation I have with my players to be recorded. And I don't know if I want every post-loss reaction to be fully on camera either. So I get it, but I think there's been a little bit of criticism surrounding that. Speaking about disappointing television viewing, though, this weekend I did not get around to watching Horizon Part 2. However, I did watch Gladiator 2 just in time.
Good or not good?
Awful. Genuinely awful.
Yeah, I heard not so great. And then there's, of course, whenever there's a movie that's not so good, there's the rumor that Ridley Scott has the extended cut and it's a masterpiece.
Unless the extended cut is a completely different movie with a completely different plot and a completely different set of actors, it's not going to be better than what I watched. And look,
I will still watch it. I'm waiting. So I have a few flights coming up. I'm hopeful by when we go to Cheltenham in March, it'll be on the plane because that's a perfect plane ride movie.
It's slow. So if you want to fall asleep.
So are plane rides, Eddie.
If you want to fall asleep, it might be the perfect one for that.
Oh, not going because, going, I'm first class, baby. So lie down seat. I'm coming into England hot, well rested, ready to go.
Okay. But yes, it's not good. And I like Denzel Washington. I like Paul Mescal. I think he seems like a really nice guy. He seems funny and charming, and it's not me. I do think it takes a certain type, going back to the efficiency of the tush push, and you got to give credit and respect it. Russell Crowe having that type of charismatic performance in a gladiatorial setting, I don't think just every actor can do that.
Gerard Butler can.
Also, it throws into question. This isn't a spoiler, right?
Don't spoil it, Eddie.
It's been out for like 3 months, 4 months.
What?
And
okay.
This premise...
Don't spoil the ending.
This isn't the ending, but I think this is widely discussed, and it certainly is revealed. Paul Mescal's Russell Crowe's son.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they...
No, okay. He is? Yeah. I thought it was...
Yes.
He's the... Okay.
He's the son of the...
girl.
The sister of the... emperor.
Yeah.
In Gladiator 1.
But then it's all for you, Spaniard. That kid.
Yes. It's also revealed that fathered by Maximus.
They kind of, I think, reveal that in the first one. I
thought
there was like a hint. I thought there was a hint towards it in the first one.
There's a hint of a love interest, but
yeah. No, there's a deleted scene where they actually show the conception
and the birth. Maximus pulling it out and goes, "Oh my God, this is my son." But
it's too on the nose. We got to cut that one, guys. Save it for the second.
It's impossible to see that. And then here's Maximus, the dedicated husband and father, who gives up his entire life to seek revenge for his murdered son and murdered wife, but meanwhile was just off sleeping around having kids with other women. How dedicated was he?
Well, wait. Let's do the time. His son that gets burned alive, is he younger than that kid was that will cheer for him?
Maybe, but we're talking...
I think he definitely is. He's probably 2 or 3 years younger. So maybe he had that kid and then thought, like, you know what? You're not the one for me. I need to find the right woman.
I would not die for you.
Yeah. I need to find the right woman. And then, maybe he like instantly leaves her hut, her tent, and stumbles into this girl, and then they become together. I see it.
Why is she in a tent or a hut?
They're all in tents. Because the time I picture them meeting together is during war. He's always at war. So she's coming to visit at war.
Okay. A sort of conjugal war visit.
Yeah. Yes. He gets the bloodlust. That's what they say about war. There's a lot of bloodlust. So he sleeps with the empress, or whatever you want to call her, and then is like, nah, there wasn't just a connection, man. It wasn't there. No real connection. And then leaves the tent and bumps into his new wife.
Okay. Well, maybe Ridley Scott has that same image in his mind.
What's the next issue you have, Eddie? Because I just fucking solved that one. Is it better yet? Really.
The rest, honestly, it felt like straight to TV. If this had been made in 2003, 2004, someone saying, hey, what was really popular? Gladiator. We should try and do something similar to that, because it fundamentally follows all of the same beats, but without any of the same. It just doesn't make sense anyway. Historically, there's lots of elements. I'm not saying the original Gladiator was super realistic, but it at least didn't flaunt the lines of realism too much. And I know I also watched interviews with Ridley Scott and other members of the cast where they were slightly questioned. Ridley Scott, for example, they have sharks in the Colosseum at one point. And the guy interviewing them said, it's not even clear that the Romans would have known sharks existed because there weren't sharks in the Mediterranean. But even if they knew sharks existed, how do they capture them live, take them back, and then release them in the Colosseum? This doesn't seem particularly practical.
Eddie, easy fix. They catch a pregnant shark. They take the babies from inside. They hatch them. They let them grow in their own tanks. And then they become Colosseum sharks. From birth.
So next.
This is too easy. Did you watch the movie? Because I don't think maybe you were paying attention.
You're right. I hadn't. Okay. Yes. Take it back. It's an amazing movie.
Maybe this could be our new segment. People write in with the issues they have with movies, and I solve it for them.
It does seem like you're solving them, all of them. And they should have shown that bit in the movie. They should have shown the...
It's a deleted scene. That's why the Ridley Scott director's cut is so good, because they show the whole process of how they catch the female pregnant shark, they bring it in, they like disembowel it, they collect the baby sharks, they let them grow, they show how they feed them, the different diets they have to figure out. The first like 6 or 7 die because they're feeding them lion and they don't like lion. It's a whole process.
Okay. Oh, it makes sense now. I take it back. The Romans were very advanced, so it does make sense to me now.
Did you want to cover Severance episode 2, or do you want to wait until next podcast?
Oh, we can do that quickly. I thought it was decent. I still feel like you're waiting for the momentum in the season to build, and again, it's being hurt a little bit by those delays and sort of trying to get those kind of snowball effect going with the episodes again. But I guess spoiler alerts, I have to say now, if you haven't watched a second episode, you definitely want to switch off now. But the reveal that she is involved, the daughter of I can't remember her character's name, the redheaded woman who's the daughter of the man running the company, is involved in some kind of plot for reasons we don't fully understand, and the significance of Adam Scott's character to a particular project that they need him to keep working on.
Cold Harbor.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought, the episode 1 of just full innie, episode 2 full outie, I thought that was kind of cool. As you get to see the time pass through with the innie, you find out everything they said in episode 1 to the innies is basically a lie. I thought that was kind of neat. The only issue I have is Outie Mark, 2 days before this, watched a random person get brutally murdered by some random woman, and then takes that person's key card, goes down and obviously does something, and then it results in his innie coming out in the everyday life. And that's like never questioned by him. He doesn't just sit down and go to his sister or even himself and be like, oh, damn, I wonder if this is connected to the fact that I watched a man get fucking beat over the head and killed 2 days ago, and I took his key card, and now the innie has reached my outer life. Like, how is that just bypassed? It's like a traumatic life event. Little oversight there.
It's a smart show. There's definitely some holes in how the innie-outie balance sort of stacks up, and the tolerance that the outies seem to have for clear mistreatment of a different version of still themselves. Like the level of disassociation between, well, I can't remember it, so it doesn't matter that they completely abuse me at work. Because as long as I don't remember it, it doesn't matter. Even when they're coming back with physical marks on themselves and getting told, well, you were in a fight, but you initiated it, so you're fired.
Yeah.
Any of that, it doesn't quite make sense. I think the show doesn't do quite a good enough job, perhaps, of showing how much better these jobs are, either in terms of pay or benefits. We kind of got a slight exposure to that with him going to try and get the job at the door factory. But ultimately, he was going to get the job until they found out that he was severed and the stigma associated with it. But
well, you also made that really bad joke about the door prize. I did not like that joke. Derogatory door joke.
It feels like they need to do a better job of, they pay way more. Like, this is, yes, you're sacrificing some stuff, because they kind of all live in very mediocre settings. It's not as if you're making a lot more. Even they convince Adam Scott, like, you'll get a 20% raise to come back. How significant is this? What sums are we really talking about? I don't know. I'm a bit cautious about how I feel about it, but
I think this episode, I never thought of it in this sense, but this episode kind of made me think about it. It's an interesting idea. If you had like a really shitty life and someone gave you the opportunity that another version of yourself that you won't be able to acknowledge, but still it is considered basically you, a part of you, would be able to live much happier, would you do that? Because I think that comes into play when you see Helena watch Helly, and it genuinely looks like she's crying because Helly is showing emotion and seems happy and in love, And maybe Helena's never had that aspect of her life because it seems like she lives in this terribly shit environment with her father, who called her a Muppet or whatever the fuck he called her, a dirty Muppet. So it's kind of interesting. Like they never really address that side of it. It's always just like been from the Mark S side of like, is your life really miserable? Do you want to forget about half your day and not have to think about terrible things that have happened? You know, like we can cut half your day of thinking out. It's actually like kind of the reverse. It's like, would you want a version of yourself to be happy, even though if you don't know that version? It's kind of cool.
Oh no, yeah, it raises a lot of questions. I think we discussed it during season 1. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to the idea of being sort of severed and sent into a job and not knowing I was there for 8 hours and just sort of reappearing into the world. But I wouldn't do that if there weren't huge benefits to the job that I was then in terms of, if it was like, hey, look, we're going to pay you $10 million a year, but don't question what we're making you do. But you're not going to. I mean, I would be ethically concerned by the setup, but to lead just what otherwise seems like the same type of life they were living anyway, it doesn't seem like a particularly compelling argument to me. That's the one thing I struggle with. The only person who they really explain that about is Adam Scott, because he wants to just not remember that his wife has died, and this is his chance to escape that. But with all the other characters, it just kind of doesn't make a lot of sense as to why this is the path that they've chosen.
Well, it seems like the bigger guy, what's his name?
Can't
the guy
remember,
who has all the finger traps.
Yeah.
It seems like he's just not very good at normal life. He seems kind of miserable, unhappy, and obviously can't get jobs. So maybe this was his way of just kind of getting a job and
but then that bit
successful.
isn't explained, right? Because he's seemingly good at this job. So it's not really explained, well, why is it so much easier to get this severed job? Or why is the technical threshold lower? And again, it seemed like he was going to get the door job until it turns out he was severed. So in other words, prior to being severed, he presumably could have got the door job.
No, he had the bad joke, Eddie. Guy did not like that joke. He hated it.
But yeah, it will be interesting. It'll be interesting to figure out what Cold Harbor is. There's obviously, the weird connection to Adam Scott's wife and whatever the significance is of him putting numbers into buckets. But
yeah. I mean, the real question is, how young were you, Eddie, when you first knew you loved doors?
It is an interesting question. I'm still waiting for it to happen, I think.
What kind of door would you be if you were a door?
That being said, having moved into my new apartment, and it's quieter than where I lived before and stuff, but the doors are not particularly solid. So the one area you do get noise leakage is through the door itself. I wouldn't mind having a nice, thicker, sturdier door to overcome that particular problem. And equally, I'm having to replace the door handles because they had the...
Is at least the locks better than the old place? That fucking super confusing lock system you had?
Yeah, it's just the front door, you mean? The front door is fine. You're okay. You'll be able to get in and out of the front door. It's a very typical little handle. But the interior door handles, they're just cheap aluminium. And so I've had to order some new door handles to replace those. So maybe I'm appreciating doors more than I previously thought I had.
All right. I guess with that, we'll call it a day. Talk to you later. Cheerio.